Iceland, the land of fire and ice, has the ranking of the most gender-equal country in the world. Now the Nordic nation is taking that a step further by implementing a law that requires companies to prove they're paying women the same as men. Since the beginning of this year, firms with more than 25 employees need to get a certificate that proves they're paying men and women the same wage for the same job. Otherwise, they'll face fines as high as $500 per day. Around 1,180 companies are affected. State-owned Landsbanking is one of them.
Well, I guess that's one of the fundamental reasons why we need this law, is because it's not something that you can easily feel or see. Well, you can have maybe a feeling for it, but it's very hard to prove.
The country's biggest bank says it will spend nearly $150,000 to comply with the law, but believes it's a good step towards closing the gender pay gap. The average pay for women globally is $12,000 per year, compared with $21,000 for men. Women in the European Union earn 16.3% less per hour than men. That's why in November the European Commission proposed a 2-year plan to close the gap. Iceland is mostly in line with Europe, having a gap of 16.1% according to national statistics. Yet it's come in at number 1 on the World Economic Forum's rankings of the most equal countries for the past 9 years. The forum also says the world as a whole could increase global GDP by $5.3 trillion by 2025 if it closed the gender gap in economic participation by only 25%. Other European countries have taken measures to narrow the gender gap, but they haven't been as far-reaching as Iceland's. Britain last year ordered companies to publish details of their gender pay gaps, but sanctions are only an option if they refuse to comply. And Germany allows employees to see how their salary compares with that of colleagues of the opposite sex for the same job. Iceland has had an equal pay law since 1961, but employees have had to prove they're being discriminated against. The new law is changing that.
The thought behind the equal pay standard is really reversing that responsibility, putting it to the company to prove that the company is not discriminating against its employees.
Iceland has made a commitment to close its gender gap by 2022. And while equal pay may not mean gender equality as a whole, its new law will hopefully encourage others to follow. Maria Ramos, TRT World.
So let's speak to Thorolfur Matthiasson now. He's a professor at the University of Iceland and he joins us from Esbjerg in Denmark. Welcome to the show. Great to have you. This law forcing companies to pay men and women the same came into effect at the start of this year. How have companies been responding to it?
Well, there are meetings all over the place where the companies are preparing, just as you saw at one of the banks, the Landsbanki. They have just started work on this. This is quite an undertaking. The companies have to go through a rather extensive process. They have to define every job, attributes of every job, and then to value those attributes. And when they have done that, they have to have it certified by an external certification company that has been authorized to do so. So this is quite costly, as you said in your introduction, and it will be time-consuming. But companies are taking, they are doing whatever is needed to live up to the law.
And what about employees? How are employees responding to all this, both men and women?
Well, mostly positively is my feeling. There are, of course, some that state that this is just waste of money, while others are more positive. In the general discussion, it has been a recurring theme, this pay differential between men and women. And of course, as was stated in your introduction, the difference is from 16 to 20%. And then if you start to correct for compositional differences between the pool of men in the labor market and pool of women in the labor market, you can reduce that difference to 5-6%.
Right.
Some, of course, believe that this difference will come down, but in my estimate, it will not happen very, very quickly.
Okay, Professor, we are running out of time, but very quickly, do you think that the model, the Icelandic model, can easily be exported to other countries?
This is an experiment just in its infancy, so I think we should see it working for 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 years until we export it.
Okay, we will leave it there. Professor Thorolfur Matthiasson from the University of Iceland, thank you very much indeed.